Welcome to the finMED project capacity building tool, designed and dedicated to Mediterranean regional public authorities to improve financing of innovation in green sectors and for SMEs. The main target group of this capacity building tool are regional public authorities of the Mediterranean countries, so including MED regions and regional agencies, specifically their staff, officials, managers, etc. Its objective is to improve financing of innovation in green sectors SMEs by providing information, knowledge, and guidance on how to design and deliver financial instruments. This online training is intended to complement and support the delivery of the capacity building tool manual that you can download from the project website. Before starting with the description of the training, let me briefly introduce you the finMED project, so to better explain how the capacity building tool has been devised and its main purposes. finMED is a project supported by the Interreg MED program 2014-2020, responding to the program priority 1.1, increasing transnational activity of innovative clusters and networks of the key sectors of the MED area, under the sub-theme Green Growth. It gathers 15 partners from 9 Mediterranean countries, including regional authorities, regional agencies, clusters, chambers of commerce, universities, and research centers development agencies. finMED objective is to boost the financing of innovation in green growth sectors through the improved delivery of policies and strategies and the introduction of innovative cluster services for the benefit of SMEs. In this context, finMED aims at increasing understanding, knowledge, and capacities related to mechanisms and solutions for financing of innovation in green sectors by both public and private actors in the MED area. finMED is based on the assumption that the transition towards a green growth requires investments and adequate funding, and that this issue is still not recognized and properly addressed as for the crucial role it has. This project deals with the question on how best to promote financing of innovation in green sectors, particularly in light of mobilizing already existing sources of funding, but fixed in more promising forms of investment for innovation with the focus on environmental sustainability. Increasing green sector SMEs access to finance for innovation. The capacity building tool has been developed to face these key challenges for the future of the MED regions, and specifically for regional authorities to overcome knowledge gaps related to the specific mechanisms and solutions for financing of innovation in green sectors SMEs. To this end, it organizes information and data in form of workable knowledge. Our main targets are managing authorities in charge of managing European structural funds at national regional level. The European Commission encourages the use of financial instruments to transform resources under the European Structural and Investment Funds into financial products such as loans, guarantees, equity, and other risk-bearing mechanisms. These are then used to support economically viable projects which promote European policy objectives. The overall political message emphasized the need for more use of financial instruments in 2014-2020. The overall aim is therefore to deliver more funding through financial instruments in future. In order to facilitate the process, the capacity building is built along a roadmap. The roadmap for financial instruments use and implementation, done by the European Investment Bank with the financial assistance of the European Union. You will become familiar with this roadmap as it provides a navigable path of the strategic and interlinked components of the financial instruments life cycle. These strategic components should be considered in parallel when designing financial instruments to ensure that financial instrument investments are aligned with overall policy objectives as well as the operational program objectives and the whole territorial, economic and social context. Before to start with the navigation through the map, I would like to briefly explain some basic concepts about financial instruments, so to clarify the terminology we will use during the training. First of all, what is a financial instrument? The term financial instrument is currently firmly embedded in the European cohesion policy parlance, but in fact embraces an array of financial products that not only operate in diverse ways, but are of widely differing orders of scale, address a variety of policy objectives, use various modes of governance and function within assorted socio-economic, institutional and geographical contexts. The common thread is essentially that financial instruments provide funding that is intended to be repayable. In light of any definitive unpacking of the term, to better focus the objectives of this training, the following notion will be used. Financial instruments are public policy instruments such as subsidized loans, credit guarantees, quasi-equity and equity finance schemes designed to overcome market failures experienced by micro, small and medium-sized enterprises to promote investments in a way that will not result through market interactions alone. Following this definition, we can see that there are four main types of financial products: loans, guarantees, equity and quasi-equity. So, let's look at the first product type: loans. A loan is agreement which obliges the lender to make available to the borrower an agreed sum of money for an agreed period of time and under which the borrower is obliged to repay that amount within the agreed time. So, a loan is the act of giving money, property, or other material goods to another party in exchange for future repayment of the principal amount along with interest or another finance charges. In general, for commercial loans, the interest charged on the loan is the market rate plus a risk premium that reflects the likelihood of a lender getting their money back. The risk premium includes credit risk, which varies with the borrower's credit history and expected cash flow. Loans are the traditional and most common form of funding mechanisms used by SMEs because there is no loss of control or ownership as with equity. The second product type are guarantees. A guarantee is a written commitment to assume responsibility for all or part of a third party's debt or obligation if an event occurs that prevents the third party from fulfilling its obligation, such as a loan default. Guarantees normally cover financial operations such as loans. They can assure this loan may happen or decrease the cost for the final recipient. Credit guarantees seek to expand funding to SMEs by underwriting the risks associated with the loan. There are essentially risk transfer and risk diversification mechanisms which guarantee repayment of part or the loan upon a default event. The third type of product are equity. An equity is a provision of capital to a firm, invested directly or indirectly in return for total or partial ownership of that firm, and where the equity investor may assume some management control of the firm and may share the firm's profits. The financial return depends on the growth and profitability of the business. It is earned through dividends and on the sale of the share to another investor, exit, or through an initial public offering, IPO. Equity finance occurs when firms exchange share capital in return for liquidity. This can include venture or risk capital and early stage, seed and startup funding. Equity finance is much less common and is typically associated with risky high-tech ventures. The return depends on the growth and profitability of the business, and it is earned when the investor sells its share to another investor or through an exit, such as an initial public offering or trade sale. Let's see the last type of product, quasi-equity. A quasi-equity is a type of financing that ranks between equity and debt, according to the exposure to loss in the event of insolvency or the level of ownership acquired. The different forms of quasi-equity, also known as mezzanine capital or mezzanine finance, can be structured as debt, typically unsecured and subordinated, and in some cases convertible into equity, or as preferred equity, having a higher risk than senior debt and a lower risk than common equity. The risk profile will also change with the duration of capital commitment and the remuneration conditions. In general, quasi-equity investments are more difficult to manage than classic debt instruments, loans, and guarantees. The distinction between these financial instruments and other forms of public financial provisions is that capital is repayable when using these financial instruments. And this is all for this first introductory video of the finMED capacity building tool. I invite you to continue the training with the video number 2. For more information about finMED project and its capacity building tool, please visit the project website, in which you can find much more information, documents, news, and also links to the Interreg MED program.